Sure.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, welcome back to the Positive Side Podcast. Host Jeremy Todd. Glad you were tuning in. And you know, like I've talked about this on several episodes now. The Wednesday interviews are rock and rolling. They're fired up. They're energetic. They're passionate. They're motivational, and then really they're here to get not only you fired up, but it's in order to get me fired up. I mean, damn, I like to get fired up. You know, I mean, gosh, I'm the motivational positive guy. You know, I mean, what the hell? I can have guests. I love having guests on my show that are fired up. And I talked to Erica briefly before we started, and man, she's fired up. I'm going to bring her on in just a second, but I really want to talk about a couple of things going on with the Positive Side Podcast. We got that book coming out, and we're excited. We're fired up about that. Launch date's going to be probably, I don't know, mid-December probably. It's going to be rocking and rolling, but the book is about authenticity, about getting bullied. I think this is totally rough right now, so don't hold me accountable for this, but the title of the book is going to be The Positive Side, which is pretty obvious. So we keep everything, the branding all the same. But it's going to be something along the lines of from bullying to bankruptcy, how to overcome something, overturnable obstacles in your life, whatever the case is. But that's a brief hint of what the book's going to be about. So I'm excited about that. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be rock and rolling. So look forward to that coming in mid-December-ish. But today, like I said, I'm excited. I love having guests on Wednesday. The last guy I had was Paresh Shah, and we're still working on, man, that podcast is off the chain. He's playing guitar on the podcast. We're going to have him on when he was on, but we're going to edit it. We're going to get him on the show here, or the actual version of it here in the next week or so. But today, without further ado, Erica Pierce is in the house, Millennial Leadership Coach. She helps organizations retain, engage, and develop their top millennial talent. Keynote speaker, baller, author, crusher, all that good stuff. Thrown all in one. Erica, welcome to the show.
Wow, you set the bar high, so I gotta be fired up and ready to go. So let's get to it. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad you're here. You know, and I think it's important that we get people that are motivational, inspirational at a time that it's so tough right now. And
Absolutely.
not only for people that that may be a little bit older. I'm 42 that are struggling with life, but millennials and everybody that's kind of struggling in between. But I want to ask you this question that just popped in my head is, what do you do first thing in the morning to get fired up?
Oh, my morning routine. I'm very adamant about it. So the first thing I do is I do a 10-minute meditation. It's all about manifesting what you want to see in your life. Then I do 10 minutes of what's called morning pages, where I just do like a brain dump in a journal, like whatever comes to my mind. It could be a to-do list. It could be gratitude. It could be whatever. I just write it down for 10 minutes. And then I read a book for 10 minutes. That is a book that will be, personal development, something that's inspirational. Right now, I'm reading The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma. Have you read it?
That book. Oh yeah, heck yeah,
it's good. It's good.
Great book.
And then I work out. So if you've read the 5 a.m. Club, also by Robin Sharma, this is basically sort of how he says you should set up your morning for success, that you have to have time to think, have time to sort of, do something inward, get everything out that you need, that's in your head, that you should read something, and then you got to move. So that's kind of how I set up my morning. And then, one last thing, while I get dressed, I have discovered on Spotify, there is a motivational playlist. It has like 27 hours of very 5-minute motivational speeches. So I play that while I'm getting ready, and that gets me fired up. Like, don't put the news on, don't do any of that stuff. Have like Eric Thomas in your ear telling you, like, you gotta go, you gotta succeed. So that is the thing I've recently added to my morning.
I'd never heard that. And I'm a big, I go back to the Zig Ziglar line is motivation's like bathing. You got to do it every day or you start to stink. But I've never heard of that Spotify thing. I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yep,
that sounds badass.
I just discovered it. It's great. And you don't hear, since it's like 30 out to almost 30 hours, you won't hear the same thing. And it's in there. Most of them are about 5 minutes long. So it's not like it's this long 30-minute speech. So love it.
Perfect. You mentioned meditation. What does your meditation look like? Because there's several, I read the book, what the hell is that book called? It's by, I can't remember the guy's name. Oh, Dan Harris. It's 10% Happier. And he talks about meditation, different forms of meditation. I'm just curious. Like, I use a lot of times, there's a meditation app that helps me walk through things, but what does your meditation look like? For people out there listening, I talk about meditation all day long till the cows come home. But most people like me, like I have no idea how to meditate. And I know people out there, well, what does that mean? What does it look like? How long? What does your meditation process look like?
So my pet peeve is when someone says I can't meditate. So everybody can meditate. It's really teaching the muscle in your brain to just quiet itself and to push things out. And some days it may be, you may be able to have a total just, clear meditation. Some days it might be a little bit crazy, but I believe just keep doing it every day. So for me, I like a guided meditation with some music. I'm not great at the meditations where it's just someone talking. I like the music to be calming. I prefer a woman's voice, to be honest with you, when I'm meditating. So I actually, for the most days, I do the same meditation. I get it off an Insight Timer. It's called Manifest Your Deepest Desires. And she takes you through like manifesting, what your relationships look like, what your partner, relationship looks like and feels like, what your professional situation feels like and looks like. And so she takes you through all these scenarios and you're really just in your mind thinking about what you want to manifest and how that makes you feel. And I only do 10 minutes. I know Deepak Chopra gets up and meditates for 3 hours every morning. I just said I hate when people say I can't. I don't think I can do that.
Yeah, well, he's the absolute meditation like king. Yeah. And I had a gentleman on Paresh Shah. Paresh Shah is like he's like, I don't know, one level. He's like next to Deepak. He was actually with Deepak a couple weeks ago, and he was kind of talking about that too. And I love how you said it's a female's voice, or you prefer a female's voice. I do too.
Yeah,
it's something that's just soothing or motherly. And and I use a podcast app called Meditation Oasis, and there's different types of meditations in there. Yeah, so if you can't sleep, if you're stressed out, you got a big meeting, she breaks it down to every single type of different meditation, which is super, super dope. But man, oh man, I think it's just so important, meditation now more than ever, because life is just so damn fast. It's like you got to wake up, you got to do this and this and this, get the kids off to school, you go to work, you work your ass off, you get home, you got to do, there's a million different things to do, and time is flying so fast with our lives. And what meditation does is it really just slows everything down. It's a time for me that I look towards gratitude, and I start thinking about the people that are just that I'm so grateful for that are in my life. Erica, I'm grateful for you in my life, because I'm a big believer if everybody comes in people's lives for a specific reason. You're here today, and I'm glad you're here.
Well, and I'm grateful to be here.
I want to talk to you about this. You got on here on LinkedIn. It says you help organizations build the next generation of leaders and managers. I guess, what does that look like? Because I have these ideas in my mind of the, maybe my future book is going to be the new leader. The new leader for me is someone that is just blends in with everybody. Just, you lead by actions. But I'm just kind of curious, when you talk about helping organizations build the next generation of leaders and managers, what does that look like?
Sure. So, I think one of the things that I like to kind of be clear on is that, I work primarily with millennials, but the work that I do, it's not necessarily just generational specific. A lot of this applies to anybody that's just trying to, navigate their lives, their careers, things like that. But I think there's a misconception that millennials are just, those people who have just graduated from college and they're like sleeping on their parents' sofa and eating avocado toast and things like that. But the oldest millennial will be 39 this year. You said you're 42. I'm turned 40 this year. So we're actually in this sort of weird micro generation. We're not millennials, but we're like early Gen X.
Yeah.
So in terms of your question, what I try to make sure organizations realize is that millennials are not necessarily like your leaders of tomorrow. They are your leaders today. They are the people that really need to make sure that, you're building out their leadership strengths. You're giving them the tools so that they can, become great leaders and also, have, just have really strong roles especially in your organization. And so for many companies, they think, I don't need to worry about those millennials right now, but the millennial generation is very large. It will make up almost half of the US workforce by 2025. So that means millennials will be, really, they'll be running things. So that's kind of where my focus is what we know. And it's funny the way what you said about even leadership is sort of making sure in terms of what that looks like. I think leaders of sort of the baby boomer generation and others, their leadership style looks a little bit different than what we see as leaders today in terms of things like empathy and making sure that, you're coaching, and really being one with your team, as opposed to someone who's just like, nope, go do this. Don't ask me any questions. And, that's it. That's not cool anymore.
Well, no, it's not cool. And you bring up a good point, because when I think about myself as a leader, as a manager, as a thought leader, that's what I want. And I was raised, with the bosses that would talk shit to you nonstop and talk down to you. I hated that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so funny that it doesn't matter what generation it is. It could be this generation, the next generation, 5 generations from now. Every generation's talk smack about the new generation.
Oh yeah.
It's
absolutely.
it's like this thing that oh my God, I'm so afraid of this millennial, so I'm going to talk smack and then make up stuff about how they're lazy and they don't like this and they don't like that. But in reality, I mean, if you throw all the names out, we all want the same thing. We all want opportunities. No one wants to get yelled at and screamed at. No one wants to get bossed around. And I think that's the biggest thing about the future of leadership, is just understanding that that's what I want. And I'm glad these older leaders, if you're one of those people, I'm glad you're going away, because you spend so much time at work, and then work nowadays is so much tied with who you are as a person, because it's tied back into social media. You put on LinkedIn, you put on every type of social media, who you are, where you work at, what you do. You talk about your day at work. It's more important now than ever to actually be proud of what you do and love what you do, because you can't take that stuff home with you. What do you think? What do you tell people? And this is big for me, and this is big for what I do. I'm in the automotive industry as well. I help manage a big Chevy store here in Indiana. And, I always talk about leaving your work at work and your home at home, but understanding that they do coincide. What do you tell people? What tips can you give to someone that, that may be millennial or older, that had a crappy day at work? What do you do to kind of decompress? Or what do you tell people to keep them separated?
Well, it's funny that you asked that question now, right? Because for so many people, the lines are really blurred in terms of, work life and home life. And so one of the things that I think is important is the same way, I think people always talk about sort of the morning routine, as we just talked about. You have to also sort of have an evening routine, something that will give you a buffer from your day. And I think, it's good sometimes. And that's the downside of people who maybe are working from home and who don't necessarily have a commute anymore. No one loves a long commute, but sometimes that commute is what gives you time to decompress, to give you time to, when you walk in that door, to give your family the best version of you. I mean, I think what unfortunately happens sometimes is that you give the best version of yourself at work. And then you come home and you give what's left over. And you really have to flip that on the other side, or figure out ways to balance that. And so it's really important, it could be when you come home, maybe that's when you do another 10 minutes of meditation, or when you do some journaling or some affirmations or things like that. But you really want to make sure that, again, you are providing your family, or even yourself, even if you live alone, when you come home or when you in your day, that you are still able to provide a better version of yourself. Because again, we tend to just give everything we have during those work hours and then say, oh, I'm tired. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that, which, it's not fair to yourself. It's certainly not fair if you have a family.
It's so funny you mentioned affirmations there. And it's like all these things that I've been talking about for years that were before were labeled as, woo. They're all BS. I'm a flower loving hippie, whatever the case is. But behind me I got my vision board. I'm a big affirmation guy. I'm a big meditation guy, and I think that's what we need to understand as a society. That whether you're 42 or 22 or 82, these are some things you can implement in your life, no matter where you are, to just deal with day-to-day stuff. I mean, life is so hard. You mentioned affirmations, and like I said, I'm that guy that has these little notes written around in my apartment.
Me too. That's why we're kindred souls. I can see.
There's no question. Yeah, there's no question. So the one I got in my bathroom now is oh, what's something, it's, shoot, what does it say? It says, oh, you didn't come this far only to go this far. I see that on my mirror, and I think about that all the time, and it's really sobering sometimes, because the days that I don't want to do a podcast, or the day I don't want to go to work, the day I don't want to do anything, I see these things, and man, I'm just like, is there ever an end? And I don't think there is ever an end. I don't know what your thoughts are about that, but I don't think this life ever ends. And when you do what you do, and you love what you do, is there an actual end to it? I don't know if there is or not. I don't know the answer to that, but that's my thought. I don't know about your thoughts, but that's my thought about life.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think that the most successful people in life are lifelong learners. And they are people who are always curious. They are people who always want to be the best version of themselves. And, when I was in high school, my best friend and I, we used to go to Books A Million, doesn't exist anymore. And we would literally go and sit in what used to be called the self-help section. They also don't call it that anymore. And we would kind of, I don't know, it was like I was already into these types of books that I could read that could make me, again, a better version of myself. And what I think is funny is back then, like if you were in the self-help section, people were like, oh, something's wrong with them.
100%. I still look over my shoulder.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, who's this guy going in there?
But to your point, I think now though, we do see shifts. I mean, you do see it becoming much more mainstream to realize that, again, we all have a lot of work to do on ourselves, be it professionally, personally, relationships, anything that we have. And, I a lot of my friends used to give me, like some crap about it. Like, oh, Erica, she's off to another one of those like seminars or things like that. But I'll tell you, if there's one thing that I've learned over the past 8 months is that I am so thankful that I have always been focused on developing myself personally. And honestly, I've been able to share some of what I've learned over the years with some people who have certainly struggled this year with, what's my purpose? Or I lost my job and I didn't know that was going to come, or I can't do all the things that I used to do anymore. I'm not traveling and posting all these pictures on social media, and I don't feel like I'm myself. That there's been lots of people that I've connected with that I've been able to share just some of the things, practical things like the meditation, the journaling. And, it's like, I've been doing this a long time. But it doesn't end, because again, I believe it's this constant desire to be the best version of yourself. And I don't think you can ever stop trying to achieve that.
I don't think so either. And it's interesting, because I was thinking to myself this, probably yesterday, the day before, about, all the different motivational books and podcasts that I listen to constantly. And, I'll have people say, well, why are you always so positive? Why do you don't really get upset? And this didn't happen overnight. It was just some of those things that I've read so many damn books, and it's just a mindset that I've developed but again, it's like anything. It's like if you're going to the gym or going for a run, you're not going to run a marathon in one day. It just takes time to build that strength. And I think that's the biggest thing about it, is that you've got to start someplace. And there's so many great books out there and so many great podcasts or people to reach out to. I think you've got to start at some point. And this is a great time where the life and world is crazy as hell, to actually reevaluate where you are with your life and come up with a new plan. And even if your plan's working well, I think you still come up with a new plan, because there's the next level, and the next level, and the next level. I think that's important as well. What are some of the things that you do? Like throughout the day, we talked about the morning, we talked about the afternoon, and having those bookends, which are so important. Throughout the day, what do you do to help maintain your positivity?
So, one of the things that I do, I actually reminded myself of doing it this morning, is just kind of little check-ins with myself throughout the day with what I am feeling emotionally.
I love that.
So, it's like,
So
where's my vibration? Like, am I at a 1? Am I a 3? Because sometimes you can get busy and you can go, so far in your day and forget it. And then you hit that low, and it's really hard to get yourself back up. And so what I'm trying to do now is, catch myself before I can get into that sort of spiral, because, it happens to the best of us. It happens to me sometimes where, I kind of allow myself to like, oh, this is too hard, or, oh, I can't do this, or something like that. But if I can catch that earlier, then I know that I can kind of raise that vibrational level up. And the other thing that I do is that I honestly, I mean, as we talked about, I have certain affirmations that they just have to stay with me throughout the day. You know, extraordinary things can happen on ordinary days. And,
Absolutely.
you know, just things like that. I love the one that you said, I didn't come this far just to come this far.
Yeah.
And so I know Jesse Eitzler, I don't know if he has
Oh,
that. Yeah, he has that saying like up like on this neon board in his house. And so, you know, there's definitely also people that I like to, you know, make sure that are kind of around me, it could be on a podcast, it could be watching a video on YouTube. You know, energy is very transferable. And so I would say to everyone to really think about who you surround yourself with. You know, some people we have choices about, some people
sure.
we
Yeah.
don't. But that's one of the things too. And what I have realized, especially over the past few months, is that I need to be with high energy, high vibrational people. And so even if I'm not with them physically, you know, there are people, again, there's podcasts that I listen to. There's, you know, the Spotify, like I said, motivational channel that I listen to that will kind of keep me in that mindset, because I'm a firm believer that mindset and, you know, the law of attraction, what you think, what you put out there, it all comes back to you. So if you want to stay in that negative mindset, that's what's going to come back to you. And so I just, again, I just make sure I catch myself. I have this list right here. I'll show you. It's called the Emotional Guidance Scale, and it's a 1 to 22 list. I didn't create this, but it definitely has the numbers. Like if you are at, you know, sort of a 22, which is fear, grief, depression, despair, you need to figure out how to raise it up to 1, which is joy, appreciation, freedom, love. So I kind of look at that sometimes during the day and say, okay, where am I on this list and how do I raise that vibration up?
I love it. And you know, it's crazy. Like all this stuff works. So
Yes.
people out there are like, this is bullshit. This doesn't work. This actually works. And it makes a huge difference in your day. A couple different things, a couple takeaways. You mentioned Jesse Eitzler, and Jesse was great because his book, and I don't remember what it was, but I think it was Living with the Seal with David Goggins. I went and saw David Goggins. I'm a gigantic Goggins fan. I just love that dude. He is an absolute beast. But the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was and you mentioned this, and this is so important, so important. And again, we're talking to Erica Pierce, baller, crusher, speaker, author, and we're going to get into how to find her book here after a while. But catching yourself throughout the day is so important. I mean, when you catch yourself going out of that funk, it's almost like you have to physically take yourself out of it. Like step out of the office, step out of the building, and just say, where's my mindset? Is this important enough to get upset about? And I love thinking to myself, if this is you know, something bad happens, am I going to remember what happened today a year from now? And if the answer is no, then it's not that big of a deal. We're going to get through it together. So that's a great takeaway. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Erica, one of the best books I've read and is by John Maxwell. I don't know if you've ever read any John Maxwell.
I've read so many John. Which one?
Well, this one's Good Leaders Ask Great Questions, and he goes through these questions that he asks everybody, and we're going to go through those one by one. I think there's 7 of them. I'm sure I'll butcher them and mix them all up, but it's okay. I'm going to go over them with you right now. Question number 1 is, what is the greatest lesson you have ever learned?
Fail forward, which is a John Maxwell quote. You know, that failure is not a bad thing. Failure is part of the journey to success. So you just have fail fast, fail often, fail early, fail forward.
Question number 2 is, what are you learning now?
I am learning that I can do hard things.
Oh man, that's a good one. Talk about that. Talk about that, because that hits home so hard with me, because I want to delegate everything. I don't want to do hard things, you know, and I just want to say, like, hey, design this website. No, I'm gonna have someone else do it. Or record a podcast and edit the podcast. No, I record I edit all my stuff, but that is so important. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, you know, I think especially as you just talked about, you know, when you're doing some of these things, I'm a full-time entrepreneur now, and I wish I could outsource a lot of different things. But you know, what I have learned is that I can do it. I can do hard things. I can figure it out. I will not give up. I may fail. That is okay. I'm going to learn from whatever it is that that mistake is. But you know, it's just I can do it. And to be honest with you, I mean, those are some of the big things like running a business. But some like I've put together about 3 pieces of furniture in the past 6 months, and I am not someone who that's not
Yeah.
something I like to do. And I literally like I'll have the box, and I'm like, I can do hard things. This is really hard. I don't like reading these instructions. They're just pictures. I don't understand it, but it's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
something I tell myself. So it's something, you know, even with, I'm on a 100-day workout challenge right now. It has nothing to do with losing weight or fitness. It's about discipline, commitment, and focus. And I can do hard things.
I
It's
like
showing
that.
myself I can work out 100 days in a row. So it's just, I can do whatever I put my mind to. But again, you have to be committed, disciplined, and focused in order to do it.
Well, I love what you said there because, you know, I've heard everybody and their mothers talks about this diet program because they want to look good, they want to lose weight. But sometimes that's a great perspective that it's not about losing the weight. It's about, can I train my mind to do something for 100 days? Because there's so many things in our life that it's not just working out. Maybe it's eating healthy. Maybe it's reading the book. Maybe it's doing a podcast. There's so many things that you can take away from that. But when we get caught up on weight loss, it's like, you know, I want to lose 30 pounds. And then you get discouraged if you don't lose a certain amount of weight and you're focused on that. But the weight will take care of itself if you actually committed to the actual time frame of that. I think that's super, super important as well. So I'm glad you mentioned that. That's very, very interesting. The other thing I want to add on top, if I can, you mentioned about, you know, doing hard things. One of the things that I struggle with, and one of the things I'm getting better at every day, is giving myself permission to try the hard things. Because so often I'm just like, you know what, screw that. I'm not going to do that. I don't even know where to start. And then I tell myself, Jeremy, you can't do that. Just give it to somebody else. But I think I had to give myself permission because I think you nailed it when you said that. I think I can do hard things. I'm just either afraid of, deep down in me, they're afraid of failure, not working, not getting it done. And then it drums up all these other things in my head, all this negative shit that comes up. I'm like, you know what? I'll just have someone else do it. But giving yourself permission to do hard things, I think that's is obviously very, very important.
Absolutely. Because I mean, growth starts outside your comfort zone. So you have to
100%.
do things that, you know, that are hard.
Absolutely. Question number 3, and you kind of mentioned this already, but question number 3 is, how has failure shaped your life?
Well, not to be repetitive, but it's
That's all right. Bring it.
That I can do hard things. Again, I think failure has just taught me that failure is your friend. You know, invite failure to the party is what I like to say. You know, you want to disinvite procrastination and doubt and insecurity. You know, don't invite those people to the party, but invite failure to the party. You know, get comfortable with failure. Get to, you know, have conversations with yourself about failures. If I fail, so what? You know, I think in school, I wish that we didn't give out F's anymore, because that puts in our head at a very young age that failure, you know, is such a bad thing. But if you look at anybody who's ever been successful, you know, you fail your way to the top. You know, honestly, it's true. Yeah. There's no such thing as an overnight success.
Well, if you don't ever have the failures, then you're never going to learn what not to do. You know,
exactly.
And I think that's super important. I don't want to do that ever again because I sucked at it.
Exactly.
I'm going to go do something different. It's so important. Question number 4 is, who do you know that I should know?
Oh, that is a good one.
Yeah, it's John Maxwell. That's not me. That's John Maxwell. That's my boy.
Who do I know that you should know? You know, probably I would say my grandmother. So
okay. Tell me about your grandmother.
My grandmother is 86 years old.
Atta girl.
And she's probably one of the most, number one, her name is Rosie, and her name speaks to who she is, but she is, you know, she's highly motivated. I call her my millennial because honestly, with the technology and everything, she's still kind of moving around and texting and doing all those things, but her mindset, I think a lot of, you know, she's been through a lot in her life and she's learned a lot in her life, but she still has that extremely positive mindset. She's talk about energy when it's transferred. I mean, I went and spent a week with her about a month ago. And I would say over the whole since this pandemic started, that was the best week that I've had, because her energy transferred to me. And, she asked like lots of interesting questions. She's always curious. She's definitely a lifelong learner. She's one of those people, and she's a leader. I mean, she is like the head person in her church, and she wears that role very well. So I like to tell people that she's such a special person to know.
Well, hopefully she'll watch this, or at least listen to it. And much love, Rosie. You are awesome. You were a rock star, and I would love an opportunity to meet you at some point.
Yes, she will watch it. She likes to watch anything and everything I do.
Well, then she'll love this. But one of the things I respect most about her is that being 86, I'm sure there are days that she just struggles. She's either in pain, or she's sore, or she's just having a bad day. And being 86 and being that positive and that mindset, she's been through some stuff, and she has great perspective about, what the possibilities are, and the positivity and what that does for others. Because look what she's doing for you. She's got her own issues and own problems. She's probably not even talking about. She's staying positive. And then having her as a role model to you, you're looking at her and be like, you know what, how can anything in my day be bad when I got Rosie rocking it and super positive, super motivational, handling stuff and being a leader? Those are the type of people that don't get credit. We talk about credit with, you can go on the list of all these motivational speakers and all these people that do great, but sometimes it's the people in the backyard. Some people, sometimes it's your family that they'll never get credit. So take this time, Rosie. You're in right now, currently 195 countries across the world. So much love, Rosie. Mad love for you.
Now I'm famous.
Yeah, absolutely. She is instantly famous, and I love it. See, question number, I think it's 5 is, what have you read that I should read?
Oh my goodness. So I am currently reading The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma. It's actually been on my radar to read for a while, and I don't know why, but I just recently ordered it and started it. And I'll be honest, as I said earlier, my morning routine is to do 10 minutes, 10-minute meditation, 10-minute journaling, 10-minute reading. And I set a timer, so I kind of stay on that track. I'm having a hard time putting this book down after 10 minutes. Which usually, I just move on. I read it for 10 minutes and I move on. So I highly recommend it. Some people don't like the style of Robin Sharma. He's telling you these life lessons through a fable as opposed to a more traditional nonfiction book. But I'm really enjoying it. The other book, you probably read it, is Atomic Habits, James Clear.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
First book I read of 2020, and definitely helped me step up just in terms of how I'm stacking, my habits and how I go about my day. So, and then you've already read all the John C. Maxwell books, so I don't got to tell you about that.
Yeah, they're great books. But, you mentioned The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, and it's probably been 3 years since I read that book. But one of the biggest takeaways I still have about that book, and again, I think it's this book, but I'm pretty sure it is, about, when life gets so busy and gets so crazy, you got all these things going on, you get this baller car, you get this baller house, and then you have health problems and you're so stressed out to the max, and then you just give everything away and kind of hit the reset button and understand how important life really is and how enjoyable life really is. And it's easy to get caught up in the drama and the fast life. It's super easy. Mm-hmm. But boy, oh boy, you blink your eye and all of a sudden it's gone. Your health is shot to pieces. You're stressed out. That's not the way to live life. And that's why one of the things I promote with this podcast is not keeping up with the Joneses, not trying to be this big baller. Be who you are and enjoy life, because who you are is enough. And I say this at the end of every episode, you have greatness within, and you truly, truly do. And when you start comparing yourself and trying to keep up with these people and having the nice car and having the big house and all these new clothes and all that bullshit, that really just, it's almost like it's almost like trying to focus on something else so you don't have to deal with the demons inside.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's so important to understand that if you are in that situation, and you lose, and if you get out of that area, you're going to lose lots of friends. But the family members that you gain and the friends that you gain make up tenfold for those people that don't give a shit about you anyways. They're just hanging out with you to be cool or whatever the case is. And none of that matters because, man, the greatness you have within, allow that to come out and your life will be so much happier, so much more pleasant, so much more joyful, and so much more successful. And not exactly financially successful, but the lives that you'll change will be so much more successful. And that's why that book is so, so good. And I think it's that book.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's exactly. You're exactly.
Okay, I hope so.
Yeah, that's the right
Okay.
book.
Okay, I hope so because it's been a while, but that's the impact it made on me. And that was actually given to me by, and I see his face. I cannot think of his name for the life. He was on my show a while ago. I wasn't the author, but it was a guy that read the book. He hands the books out all the time, but I can't remember his damn name. Sorry, but that's okay. Question number 6. We got 2 more questions left. And again, we're talking to Erica Pierce, again, speaker, leadership coach. And I've said this 1,000 times on the show. The fastest way to get from point A to point B is to hire a coach. And Erica, if she's resonate with you, make sure you reach out to her. And again, we're going to talk about how to get a hold of her towards the end of the show. But question number 6 is, Erica, what have you done that I should do?
Ooh, 100-day challenge. Doesn't have to be working out, but challenge yourself to do something every single day for 100 days. You know, they say that you create a habit after 21 days. I don't know that I believe that that's true. Or maybe you do create a habit, but I don't know that it really pushes you to do something for 21 days. So 100 days is a pretty big commitment, and it could be anything. But again, it goes back to I can do hard things. But if you select something and you do it every single day for 100 days. I mean, yesterday was my day 50, by the way.
Isn't that crazy? Good for you.
So halfway there, it definitely feels good. And celebrate your wins, you know, like I celebrated my 50 day workout yesterday. So, you know, it's just, but again, I think it gets back to that whole lesson in commitment, focus, and discipline.
Well, training your mind is so important. And, you know, I think you're right. But it's interesting when you get to like certain milestones at 100 days, you know, I'm sure like day 30 would be tough because you're into it, but you got so much further to go. 50 is a win because you're halfway home. And I'm sure you probably have another roadblock, probably 70 or something like, dang, I got 30 more to go. Jeez, a piece. But again, when you train your mind, it's almost like you climbing Mount Everest. It's like your own mental Mount Everest.
Well, and then going back to the atomic habits, you don't want to break the chain. So it's like, if I don't do it this one day, you know, damn it, that's going to like really, you know, kind of mess up this whole like 30 or 40 or 50 days that I've done this. So it's also that whole mindset.
Erica, question number 7, final question from John Maxwell's book, Good Leaders Ask Great Question is, how can I add value to you? Now, I know I ask that question a lot of times on my podcast, but it means a lot to me. And I really, truly want to know what I can do to help add value to your life, whether it be accountability, friendship, emails, call you in 3 years, whatever the case is. But how can I add value to you?
Well, you're already going to be on my podcast, so that's
that'll be fun.
So I'm looking forward to that. And then, you know, I'm almost finished reading The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. So I would love a book recommendation from you. You know, again, I read every morning, so I go through books. You'd be surprised just reading 10 minutes. You read a book in about almost 2 weeks. So which, you know, for me, that's actually pretty quickly.
Yeah, you know, it's here's a good story. I just recently started. I got a book in my car. It's called Boss Life. A friend of mine gave that to me, but I started listening to audiobooks are big for me.
I love audiobooks too.
I just started listening to Michelle Obama's book, Becoming.
I got it right here.
Have you read it yet?
Well, you know what's funny is I have not read it, but I put the audiobook on my grandmother's phone so that my grandmother walks every single morning.
Oh, nice.
So she could listen to it on her. So that was her first audiobook.
Well, it's a great book to start with. And you know, it's interesting when I've told a few friends that said, hey, I'm reading Michelle Obama's or listening to Michelle Obama's book. And it's crazy the responses that you get back. It's like some people turn it into political. That's really the main one. Is why I would never do that. I've never listened to that book, but I am probably 2 hours into the book, 2.5 hours into the book, and it's one of the most brilliantly written books. It's almost it's borderline intimidating because it's so good. Like the way she describes things, and you feel it like puts you in the 1960s with her and riding around in her car with her dad and her brother and her mom, her dad getting sicker and sicker. I mean, literally the way she describes things is so brilliant. And I would recommend you to, for me personally, the audiobook version is better because she reads the book. And I'm a big, if you're going to have an audiobook, I want you to read your own audiobook, but it is so brilliant. And like I said, it's borderline intimidating because it's so well written, and she's a great storyteller. And again, I don't care if you're, and again, in these times that we're in, Republican, Democratic, Libertarian, I hate this, I hate that, Trump, Biden, all this bullshit going around. I don't care about any of that stuff. I can literally give two shits about any of it. I want to listen to a book about a powerful woman, African-American woman that has been the first lady of the country, and her upbringings and what she's gone through. That to me is a success story. Throw the political shit out the window. It's just so interesting how she grew up so poor and how her life's turned into what it turned into. So that book right there, that's a book you need to listen to for sure.
Okay. Well, like I said, I have had the book a long time. I'm embarrassed that I haven't read it, but you have now motivated me. So I'll confess this. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, but I've always listened to nonfiction audiobooks.
Oh yeah.
So I just recently learned, especially even on the fiction side, about the authors reading them, and just how, hearing the author read it. Because in the nonfiction books, they're read by just random people.
Sure.
They're rarely read by John Maxwell does read his though. But I did not think about the fact of hearing it from her directly, how powerful that can be. Because to your point, politics aside, she has an amazing story of just success, even before she became first lady, of how her parents put both her and her brother, through Ivy League educations, and they did not grow up in a place that was preparing them for that.
No, absolutely not. No, it was brilliant. And again, this goes back to this is the problem I think we have in society in general, is like you have to agree with someone 100%. I don't agree with anybody 100%. And if we can check the 10% out, or 20%, or even 50% that you don't even like about somebody, and just be open-minded and listen to the perspective, because if you never gain their perspective, how are you ever going to learn from that situation or gain more perspective on your end?
Right.
That's a major problem we have today with society in general, is that it's like this tribalism that we have to get fitted into a certain bubble or certain Republican, Democrat, or even sports teams or religions and all this stuff, that we get so tied into this bubble that the bubble is never going to break unless you actually be open-minded and listen and look into, whether you agree or disagree, you understand where people come from, and it allows you to communicate more, become more peaceful, and understand each other more and more and more. And that's what's so important about life in general. But Erica, you're the bomb. I appreciate you stopping on the show. Tell everybody around the universe where they can find you.
You can find me at ericapierce.com, and that's ARIKA, a little different, Pierce, PIERCE.com. Also on social media, I'm primarily on Instagram, and my handle is The Millennial Boardroom. And the Millennial Boardroom is actually a community that I've created that's for millennial professionals who are ambitious and action-minded. And, I have the social media presence. I also have a membership community where you can come in, connect with other professionals, as well as get trainings and courses, and just, have community. So you can find out all of that on my website.
Well, if you're going to be like me, you got to go over there and check her out for sure. And, she's obviously, Erica, I just love your passion. I love your authenticity. I love your vulnerability. And it's so refreshing. And that's why I love having great people like you on the show, because it just goes to show that, gosh, when you get, and again, not that you are out of my bubble, but when you get out and just meet new people you've never met before, you realize that this world isn't as different as it seems. We have so much more in common, and it just starts reaching out and meeting new people and trying to learn from everybody. And I just appreciate you more than you know for being on the show, and I can't wait to be on your show. I'll bring the heat, I promise.
Okay.
Everybody out there listening around the world, I appreciate you. Make sure you run over to thepositivesidepodcast.com. Make sure you subscribe to the actual podcast itself. Share, leave those 5-star reviews. It allows other people to find the show. But at the end of the day, I'm everywhere. I'm on Pandora, freaking Google Play. I think Google Play might be going away, but Spotify, everywhere. And make sure we connect on all the social media platforms. Again, the more positivity you can have in your life, the better. You've got greatness within. Like always, this is The Positive Side.